UFC Macau, China is this Saturday, and we have 13 fights headlined by Petr Yan taking on Davison Figueiredo. We also have 3 Road to the UFC finals fights on this card. There was supposed to be 4, but 1 had to get canceled. So we still have the 3 finals. We have a great main event, and there is some fun fights on this card. There is going to be a lot of names that the casual fans aren't going to be familiar with, but there's some really fun matchups. I think there's going to be some finishes on this card. We are back to the new gloves, unless they do another last-minute change. So maybe we don't see the knockouts on this card again. But there's a couple fights that I do think we're going to see finish via knockout. So we'll get to that. We're going to start at the bottom, as always, work our way to the top. I'd like to drop these on Tuesday, but because, like I said, there's a lot of new faces on this card, I wanted to take that extra day to go through some of their regional tape and get familiar with some of these new faces. So leave a like on the video. Let me know in the comments what bets you guys like, what your favorite underdog on this card is. I do think it's a pretty hard card, but there's a couple spots that I like. So subscribe. Hey, I appreciate you guys helping me get to 3,000 subscribers. So I appreciate each and every one of y'all for helping me get there, man. Really appreciate it. So turn those post notifications on, and let's get to this, man. We got Wager Wars tomorrow night. I'm going to have 2 fun guests, so look out for that. 8:30 Thursday night, which is tomorrow. Check that out live. If you miss it, go to the live tab. I'll put timestamps in there. Let's get into it, man. First fight on the card, we got Maheshate taking on Nicholas Motta. Maheshate, a guy who came in to the UFC, tough debut. Fought Rafa Garcia. That's not actually no. Steve Garcia was his first fight. Knocked Steve Garcia out. That was actually pretty impressive considering that's Steve Garcia's last loss. Since then, dude's on 7 knockouts in a row. I'm pretty high on Steve Garcia, but we do know he's a high risk, high reward fighter. He's gonna set himself up to get countered sometimes, get knocked out. We've seen him get dropped a lot. Maheshate does hit hard. So that was good. Then he did have to fight Rafa Garcia and Borshev. I'm not super high on Borshev, but the guy is a dangerous striker. If he knocks you out, okay, I can give you a little bit of a pass for those 2 losses. Taking a split over Gabriel Benitez was not a good look. All right, it really isn't where Benitez is at in his career right now. Motta, on the other hand, his debut was against Jim Miller, and I bet Jim Miller in that spot. I believe I got him at plus money, too. It was like, I want to say almost plus 200 or something. I might be remembering that wrong. I'd have to go back and look, but I bet Jim Miller there. I might have even had Jim Miller by KO, but I at least had Jim Miller on the money line because that's a tough debut. Jim Miller's still doing the damn thing. So not a guy you want to fight in your UFC debut, but I think he's grown since then. Came in that Van Camp fight, got the win there. I don't remember if I bet him there, but I picked him to get the bounce back there. I've had a pretty good job picking Motta's fights. Torres, super dangerous. He had his success. He actually hurt Torres, but Torres super dangerous, especially early. We've seen that. Look, Trey Ogden dominated him, but Trey Ogden's Trey Ogden, man. We've seen at this point. People sleep on Trey Ogden. Dude's good. Tom Nolan. You could say that there's some stylistic, similarities in this matchup. Knock Tom Nolan out as a big underdog. Maheshate, another big. He's gonna have the height. He's gonna have the reach. He's gonna be the bigger guy. But man, Motta's coming off knocking a guy out that was very similar to that. And Maheshate does have power. And yeah, Motta's been knocked out a couple times. So on paper, you could be like, oh, he's probably the more durable guy. But I've seen Maheshate get hurt. I've seen Maheshate get hurt, and Motta cracks. He hits hard. I think someone's getting knocked out. I don't think this fight's going to go 15. I think someone's going to get knocked out, and maybe it is Motta. But, I will say Maheshate, only 24. I'm sure he's getting better. I'm sure he's making his improvements. But I like Motta, even at 31. Going over to Extreme Couture, one of my favorite gyms, getting in great looks with some, people that are going to add a ton to his, game. I think this guy is the more well-rounded guy. I think he cracks. I know he cracks. And I think the 4 losses by stoppage doesn't look good on paper, but, I think he's a pretty tough guy. He's fought some tough guys, and I don't give him too much flack for that Ogden fight like everybody else does, because I'm higher on Ogden than a lot of people. So give me Motta, man. Give me the underdog. I bet him at plus 175. I thought about waiting because I do think when people see these guys, I might end up doubling down because I feel like at weigh-in, you might end up seeing people start betting Maheshate because he is the bigger guy. He's going to make Motta look a little small. But give me Motta. Give me Motta by knockout. And let's move on to the next fight, man. Next fight, we got Long Xiao taking on Kwang Lee. Yeah, this is an interesting fight, man. This is one of the closer line fights for a reason. And it's pretty much dead even. I think Lee is a slight underdog, and, I get why it's closely lined. On the Long Xiao side, he's obviously got a ton of experience for a 26-year-old, but it is on that, Chinese regional scene. He's not fighting the highest level competition. And I got to say, he's having trouble with a lot of these guys. Not only does he have the 9 losses, but even in a lot of these wins, it's not like dominating performances. Now, you got to say, I want my fighter to face some adversity so he can learn. But he's facing a lot of adversity in these fights. Like, it's rare that he goes in and just dominates. A lot of times, even if some of these fights he's getting a finish in, he's getting hurt or he's getting taken down. He'll mix in takedowns of his own, but he can be taken down. I think both these guys could potentially land takedowns. It's going to be about who's going to commit to it first. And, I don't know. On the Long Xiao side, I've seen him get hurt. I've seen him get taken down. I've seen him make so many mistakes that it's tough to pick him, even as a slight favorite. It's tough to pick him because on Kwang Lee's side, I think it's actually Kwang. Loss. They're both coming off a loss, but the Gutierrez performance wasn't bad. If you're on the feet with Gutierrez, you're able to hang. He had his moments and, took him down, I think, once or twice. I think he can take Long Xiao down. I think both these guys could take each other down. But I kind of like Lee. Obviously a lot less experience, and, at 33, only 9 fights. It's not always a great look. But, I actually kind of like that performance. I feel like he could beat, lower level guys in this division with a performance like that. I think he could potentially take Long Xiao down. I think he could land a big bomb. He seems to have some pop in his shots. I just don't like Long Xiao. Like, I love a guy with. I don't really care about the record. Like, you guys know me. I'm never a guy who really puts too much stock into the record. You got to factor it in, but it doesn't really matter to me. It's not about the losses. It's just about overall. I like experience, but my God, and like 80% of these fights, he's losing at some point. Like, he doesn't separate. So, I think Lee could potentially knock him out. I think he could take him down. So when you got a plus money next to him, it's kind of tempting. I haven't bet it yet because I think it is a very close fight. But I think Lee should be the slight favorite, man. I'm going to go Lee. It's not, I think he should be like minus 120. So I don't know if I'll bet it. I try to stay away if I would line it that close to what it's actually lined, which is, I think there might be like a plus 105 out there. So I don't know if that's enough to get me to bet on it, but I'll take Lee. Back-to-back underdogs to start this card off. And we'll move on to the next fight. We got Loner Kavanagh taking on Jose Ochoa. Ochoa, actually. Kavanagh coming off that knockout. Look, I killed it in Dana White Contender Series. There was only one card that I went negative on out of 10 this last season, 9-1. And the only card I lost on it was less than a half a unit. Now, yeah, I have a conservative betting style, so a lot of those wins are like, 0.7, unit and a half, up to, I think my best one was like 4 or 5 units. So, but still, I killed it on Contender Series, but one of my underdogs, which I killed it on underdog specifically, but whoo, I bet Co. All that to say, I bet Antoine Co. And my God, Loner Kavanagh absolutely slept in. That was a tough one. And hey, it was an early KO. It is what it is. Like, it can happen. He just got absolutely clobbered, and he could knock Ochoa out. And I do think he's probably the more technical guy. He obviously shows he has the power, and so does Ochoa have the power. But he probably does, just have a little bit more defensively sound game. He could probably mix in a couple takedowns on Ochoa. Ochoa has some jiu-jitsu, but, I do think Kavanagh's probably the better wrestler. Not that either is a fantastic wrestler, but if you were to tell me, crystal ball, somebody's in here getting takedowns, I'd lean it'd be Kavanagh. So all that's good, but I will say Kavanagh likes to mix it up in the clinch if he's going to try to take you down a little bit and, or put you up against the cage. And that's going to be tough against Ochoa, who's got a really nasty clinch, good knees. He'll make it dirty, and both these guys are undefeated for a reason. What Ochoa, he's not fighting the highest level competition, but neither guy is. I'd probably edge Kavanagh's, probably get a couple better wins. But, Ochoa's pretty nasty, man. He's only 23, which, that's right into my little red area where people love, like, oh, this guy's younger. Yeah, sometimes age can actually work against you. But, both guys are super young. Obviously, same amount of fights, Ochoa, though, it's tough to see him at this much of an underdog because, he's super dangerous. He's got power. He's knocking these dudes out. 6 of his 7 wins are by knockout. And then he's coming off that hit. All 7 are by finish. And then his one win was that Anaconda in his last fight. Yeah, that was nasty, showing that he can sprawl on guys. And if Kavanagh especially if he gets a little tired, he'll start sprawling on you. And then, he's got those front chokes. He showed that. And it was a pretty nasty Anaconda, too. So, I like Ochoa here, man. I bet him plus 295. I think he's live. I like Kavanagh. I think both these guys are good, man. Two guys that I'm looking forward to seeing in the UFC for years to come. I think they're both good. I do think Kavanagh's probably the more put-together guy. I'll pick Kavanagh. I'm not going to go 3 underdogs in a row. But this one's got a nice little pretty... If you got plus over 300, man, congrats. I missed that, but I got plus 295. I'm happy with that. I think that's still there. Actually, no, I got plus 290. It was plus 295. I missed that. I got plus 290. I just think he's more live than that, man. I'd probably put Kavanagh like minus 170 or something like that. So, I'll pick Kavanagh, but I'll take Ochoa on the money line, plus 295. Let's move on. Next up, we got Carlos Hernandez taking on Tumendemberel, Tumendemberel. Man, I feel like I had that first name down better, and then, I go to record. Anyways, man, what can you say? This dude, Tumendemberel, he's just an absolute bro. It's funny because he's art of the knockout, but he actually only has 2 knockouts. He's mostly, but he's finishing the guys, though. The problem is, these guys he's submitting they don't know how to spell jiu-jitsu. They're just like guys, they're like, hey, you want to fight on this card? Like, totally. But respect to him, he's 8-0. He's gone in there and handled these dudes as he should. He's pretty good. I mean, at least okay. That's figurative, or it's, what's the word I'm looking for? Anyways, I'm not a scholar here. But point is, he's a brawler. Like, he's got his hand raised 8 times out of 8 when he goes into the cage. But at the end of the day, he's winging big power shots. He's trying to, if he gets you down, he's just like all for nothing or all or nothing, trying to just get that sub. So the first, I'd like to see what happens if he's going against a guy who's pretty durable. Hernandez has been finished a couple times, but, who finished him? Tiara caught him with that nasty shot. And even though I haven't been as high on Tiara as other guys, I think he is really good. I just faded him successfully in his last fight. But still, he is super good. And then, Tsuruya, that was a pretty competitive fight, too. He had his moments. And then Nascimento, a guy I'm a lot higher on than others. So, 3 tough, those are guys that all 3 of those guys would be 8-0 if they fought Tumendemberel's competition. So, and Hernandez probably would be, too. He's not as much of a dynamic finisher as Tumendemberel, but Hernandez is, he's tough. He's not going to quit. You got to catch him. You got to, like Nascimento, just catch him dead to rights. He's not going to quit on you. He's not going to get tired. He's going to fight hard for 15 minutes. And I think that's going to be too much. I wish I would have bet him. And, dude, some people got Hernandez at, like, plus 200. That's wild. I think he opened, like, plus 220. I doubt, like, anybody. It looked like he immediately got hit. But, yeah. Congrats on that. I missed it. I see minus 156 on FanDuel. It's tough to, like, want to bet chalk on a guy like Hernandez, who's obviously, 2-3 in the UFC. But this is a step down. I mean, the thing is, it is a momentum, and, confidence is so big in a sport like this that maybe Tumendemberel can just have a standout performance. But it's not like minus 156 is right on the cusp of getting me to bet it. But I haven't, it's just like, see, I don't like to get in the habit of betting lower level guys, no disrespect, losing records in the UFC at chalk, I made that exception with Mickey Gall the other week, and it cost me a winning week, or last week, I should say. And, I don't do that often, but he did look good until he got clobbered, but it is what it is. Hey, maybe Tumendemberel can do the same thing. I'll take Hernandez by decision, and we'll move on to the next one. We got Zhao Feng taking on Ming Shi. Feng, pretty big favorite, man, and I do get why she's a big favorite. First of all, she's the much bigger girl. She's been an underdog in all her recent fights, at least in this tournament. Like, I was looking through the odds, and it makes sense. You know, 5'2", she's small. You know, she'd probably benefit from a 105 division. We do need to, we need that atom weight division. Just make the division smaller. I'm not saying more women fights. I'm just saying, you know, first of all, we're getting rid of 145 is basically done. There's a solid amount of girls who would probably do better at 105. Corey McKenna, another one who just got cut, she'd probably be solid at 105. But anyways, Feng is going to be the much bigger girl, and she's fought the much better competition. Like, one of her losses actually to our girl, Na Liang, the GOAT, and it was round one. Like, that's what Liang does. If she finishes you round one, it's nothing to scoff at. She's dangerous. Even this girl, went back and watched this fight. I mean, she was only 2-1. She had 3 fights. And again, Na Liang had 21 fights. She had 2 when they fought. She's on a hell of a streak. She's looking good. She's gonna have a striking advantage here. But both girls like to grapple. Both girls want to get on top. And I do think Feng's got the better takedowns. You know, she is 22. She's pretty green. You know, but you know, because she's got 12 fights, but it's not the highest level competition, obviously. But it is a little bit higher than she, who does have more fights. But it's like, you go through some of these girls' fights, and it's like, I mean, she Americana'd this 0-0 girl like a couple years ago. I mean, it was 4 years ago, but still, like, really? You got Americana'd in MMA? You should be ashamed of yourself. I'm sorry, no disrespect, but dear God. And like, but then again, you are 0-0 fighting a girl 10-4. Like, ridiculous. You got Americana'd by a girl who's 5'2" in MMA. That's tough. If that happens, it better be heavyweight. Anyways, Feng should win. You know, 2 grapplers. Feng's probably the better grappler. The thing is, like, do you really want to bet 3-1 on Feng, a girl who, you know, I mean, she's 22, coming off the Chinese regional scene. If you're betting 22-year-olds coming off that scene with 12 fights at 3-1, man, you're gonna go broke in this game. So it's gotta be dog or pass. I don't know if I could get to it because she's nothing I'm looking at on this when I'm watching these fights is very impressive. But if she maybe puts Feng off her back, or if both are just like, oh, let's just strike for 15 minutes. If they do that, I still think Feng wins just because she's got, you know, the better striking and she's the bigger girl. But you know, it's tough to be confident 3-1 level confidence on this. So I'll take Feng by decision. But yeah, I will not be laying that chalk. That's for sure. Next up, we got Kiru Sahota taking on Donghu Choi. Pretty interesting line movement on this. There's been a couple fights with line movement like that, and because now it's like even money. And I think that does make sense. I do think it's another really close fight because you know, Choi, first of all, there's going to be a decent size discrepancy here. He is pretty friggin' jacked for the division for 125, but Sahota's friggin' huge, man. He's 5'10" and, like, you know, obviously he's slim, but you know, he is just the bigger guy. I mean, it's pretty crazy. He makes this division. I don't even think that's like an exaggerated 5'10". This dude, when I was watching his fights, like, he's much taller than these dudes he's fighting. And you know, pretty decent power in his hands. You know, he's catching these dudes, but he gets a little, you know, he'll spin. He's throwing like spinning back fists, spinning back kicks, you know, hands down, trying to like snipe dudes. And he's got that tall man's defense for sure. And a guy like Choi, you know, undefeated for a reason. Even being like obviously not the biggest guy, because you know, he'll find your chin. He's got decent pop in his shots. He can land takedowns. I do think it's gonna be a little tough, you know, just because he's not really shooting. He's clinching these guys up and dragging them down or tripping them or trying to throw you. That might be a little tough against a guy like so big and so tall. It's gonna be tough takedowns to hit. It'd be easier to shoot on the legs. I don't know if you could trust Choi. If he was like minus 150 to go in there and shoot singles, shoot double legs, which is typically the answer against a guy, you know, who's this tall, you know, like them giraffe legs. You need to put them together and tip him over. But Yeah, I think Choi is the more polished guy. I think he's better. Is the size does give me a little bit of, pause, just because I can't really trust Choi to go in there and show some All American wrestling or something. Obviously, didn't need to say All American. I'm sorry. They do have some wrestlers out there, but he's not really a wrestler. He's really trying to like clinch you and land trips and stuff. So I don't know. I'll go with Choi because I do think he's just a better fighter. But I could see Sahota either finding his chin, sniping him, or just peppering him up, jabbing him up for 3 rounds, or at least 2 of the 3. So I'll take Choi. Choi decision. It's probably going to be a pretty competitive fight. Next up, we move to Su Young Choi or Su Young Yu taking on Balgan Jenisuly. And these spellings are all different depending on which site you're using, but I like to trust Tapology. They actually have a better track record than the UFC's official site. No offense. But this is another one where it's 2 grapplers, man. 2 grapplers, especially this Jiu-Jitsu guy. I mean, he's like a straight up, like he'll sell out for the grappling. And this is probably going to be another one like that, like the female fight on the early prelims, where it's who's going to get that takedown, man. Even that Long Lee fight, like guys who I think both these guys could take the other down. Neither guys I think has the best wrestling, but they'll go for it. So who's going to get that takedown? Because the person who gets on top is probably going to win this fight, man. Especially, you definitely don't want this Young Yu guy on top of you. Jenisuly, not as dynamic with his submissions and stuff, but, is probably going to be the bigger guy. Not just a taller guy, but I think he probably is the bigger guy here. And he's going to have the better striking. He's a little bit more well-rounded. I think he's got a little bit more weapons on the feet. Su Young just really wants to get you down. Like, he wants to get you down and look for those submissions, look for some ground and pound. If it stays on the feet, I think Jenisuly is definitely live here. This is one where, it's tempting because I do feel like this is, probably one of like 3 fights on this card. This one, the Lee fight, and what's the other one that I'm thinking of? There's like 3 fights on this card that I genuinely think are like coin tosses. Another one we might have talked about earlier, but yeah, so not only in that case do you want to go with the underdog, but I really do think he's the more well-rounded guy, man. I think if this fight plays out on the feet for minutes, then Jenisuly's going to be the minute winner. So I'm going to go with Jenisuly. I'm not confident on it. I don't know if I'll bet it, man, because while typically if I'm picking an underdog, I bet it. He's only like plus 120 right now, plus 115. And I don't know. 2 debutantes, road to the UFC guys. I kind of want to see more. I think it's going to be a close fight. So I don't know. We'll see later on in the week if I get around to a bet. But I will pick the underdog, Jenisuly. I'll pick him to win by decision. It's going to be close, though. It's going to be a good fight. Next up, we got Ozzy Diaz taking on Mingyang Zhang. Zhang coming off that round 1 knockout over Brinson Ribeiro. And real quick, what's the streak on that, man? This dude's on a hell of a run. Got choked out in the first, in 2019. Since then, round 1 knockout, round 1 knockout. Round 1, 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 11, 12 round 1 finishes in a row. This dude is a freaking animal. He is taking his vitamins, all right? He is taking his vitamins, depending on where you're from. And bro is, he's coming in there, a new animal, absolutely yoked. Dude's a freaking freak, and he's just going to come across and try to knock you out. And, he's got an opponent who's going to oblige, man. Ozzy Diaz, that's what he does, man. He's a straight-up brawler. These 2 dudes, somebody's going to sleep in the first round, straight up. Someone's getting knocked to Pluto. New gloves, old gloves, bare knuckle, boxing gloves. You put these dudes in a cage, knock on wood that I don't, jinx us. But my God, if they go back to these new gloves and this fight doesn't finish in the first, I don't even care if it's a knockout in round 2. If this fight isn't a knockout in round 1, even though I will say, actually, if Ozzy Diaz wins, then maybe he does extend it, because he actually can be a guy who can take over a little bit late. He's got a couple later finishes, right? He had that couple round 2s. I wanted to say he had a round 3. Maybe it was just round 2s, yeah. But in a couple of these fights, it wasn't looking super great early. And I mean, obviously got knocked out by Joe Pyfer on a Contender Series, but that is Joe Pyfer, who's not only is he pretty solid, but he's dangerous, especially early. Ozzy Diaz is going to brawl, man. He's going to brawl. He's going to play into Zhang's cards. That's exactly what Zhang wants. I think Zhang knocks him out, but I will say in a brawl at 205, do you really want to bet minus 300? So keep this fight off your parlays, man. I see people parlaying it. Hey, I won't knock you because at the end of the day, we agree on the pick. But I think it's dangerous, man. It's dangerous to bet light heavyweight fights that you know are going to be a brawl. And yes, I think Zhang is going to be the one who knocks him out, but we've seen both these guys get hurt. We've seen both these guys get knocked out. Zhang, got more fights and been knocked out 3 times, been submitted twice, only win the decision once and lost it. Ozzy Diaz never been to decision. Somebody's getting slept here, man. I'll take Zhang to get the knockout, but, it's tempting. It's tempting like that Ochoa line. It's tempting to just bet both of them because I really do think one of them's going to win. I don't think you should be betting, Loner Kavanagh and Ming Zhang at 3-4 to 1. I just think that's crazy, man. These fights are going to be good. They're going to be there's a high likelihood that their opponent could find the knockout. So you don't even got to bet for the judges. But we will move on. Volkan Ozdemir taking on Carlos Ulberg. Another fun one, man. This is a fun fight. Ulberg, they're trying to build him up. He's coming off a nice little streak, beat Tafon, knocked him out, a local guy, know him pretty well. Nikolai Negamarianu knocked him out, a guy who you could beat him, but to knock him out, that was impressive. Even just beating him. I'm actually, Nikolai's good. Podiera, okay, is what it is. Zhang, okay, kind of is what it is at this point. Even Minifield, the way he fought, is what it is. These are not the highest level fights. This is a step up for sure, and it's a step down for Volkan. Maybe not from Johnny Walker, because I think at this point, respectfully, Ulberg is just better and more durable. But honestly, I will say, the Guskov, I won't say they're step downs from this, but step down from some of the competition he's fought. Lost to Ankalaev by decision. Got finished, but fought DC. This dude fought for the belt. And Volkan, smoked Guskov. And I'm pretty high on Guskov. And I will say Guskov's getting better. And I think now, be a tougher fight if they were to fight today. But still, Volkov smoked him. And that was like the one time we saw him actually go in there and use some grappling. And that would be a smart thing to bring back in this fight because Ulberg is a kickboxer. And I'm sure, he's training at City Kickboxing. They know that the path to beat him is going to be to do some grappling. But still, he's still a kickboxer at the end of the day. He's always going to be more of a striker. So the path is always going to be to mix it up against him, or at least the threat of the takedown. And Volkan never really been a guy to offensively wrestle, but we did see it in the Guskov fight, and that was only 2 fights ago. Maybe he can bring it back. That would be very smart to at least give the threat of the takedown. Because if it's just a straight-up kickboxing match, I think Ulberg knocks him out pretty easily. But Ulberg does have a little bit of tall man defense left in him, especially for a credentialed kickboxer. You see him, his chin can be a little bit there to hit. And then Volkan cracks, man. No time Volkan for a reason. So Volkan could knock him out. He could clip him. But I do got to go with the guy who I think is going to be winning the minutes. The guy who I think in a fight that's probably going to play out predominantly on the feet. I got to go Ulberg. But, if Volkan's smart, he goes mixes it up like he did in that Guskov fight. You could land a bomb, but what's more likely? I think at least the threat of the takedown opens up the hands. It'll open up the bombs. So he needs to wrestle. He needs to mix that in. But I don't know if I could trust him to do that. I wouldn't rule him out. I wouldn't be betting this because I probably would put Ulberg closer to like minus 200. But I don't know if I can get around to a bet on Volkan. I don't know. I think Ulberg should win, man. I think he pieced him up on the feet, and they just mostly strike. We'll move on to the next fight. We got the biggest favorite on the card. We got Wang taking on Gabriela Fernandes. 2 strikers. Fernandes, she's mostly been losing when she gets out grappled. Jasmine out grappled her. Bleda, that's really not a great loss at all. And I don't really care about these fights way back here, but at the end of the day, she is a striker. She is mostly a boxer. Wang, she'll mix it up. She does like the hands, but she'll mix in some elbows. She'll mix in some kicks. And, I think she should be a favorite, obviously. I think she should be a pretty big favorite because she also shown some power, man. She should, like, to beat Leonardo, okay, yeah, you were supposed to beat her. But to knock her out in a minute, first shot that really landed flush, that was pretty impressive. Beat Yanan Wu, that's a pretty good win. I know everybody's going to talk about it. She has a kickboxing win over Valentina Shevchenko. That was 9 years ago, but still, A is what it is. She is nasty, man. These girls are gonna strike. I don't see Gabriella going in here and trying to wrestle. So if you're gonna strike with Kong Wang, man, you're gonna have to be one of the better girls in the division. I don't think Fernandes is that. So I think Kong Wang wins, man. If you want to take a flyer, it's women's MMA. It's unranked women's MMA. It is kind of like I've been watching it because at the end of the day, sometimes if you're talking unranked women's MMA. And you got a plus 650 dog, sometimes you just got to plug your nose and say, yes, I know this is not the better fighter. She should not win this fight. But if Wang doesn't knock her out, it could be a 15-minute close fight. And even if you think Wang won, if you're betting 8-1 in a fight that goes to decision in a women's MMA fight, these judges literally are not even paying attention. There is a high likelihood, if this fight goes to decision, that Fernandes wins at least one round. That's just how it goes. So, it's kind of tempting if this line gets absolutely ridiculous. If Wang gets like minus 1,000, I might just bet Fernandes off principle. I will say Fernandes is just like, she's pretty tough. I don't see her mixing in takedowns as straight up. She'd have to either clip Wang or win 2 of these rounds. Do I think that happens? No. But if it's like plus 800 or something, you might, or plus 700, you might even just have to just say screw it. I don't know. We'll see. I'll let you guys know later on in the week if I do it, but I say Wang wins. I'm going to say Wang gets the decision, though. I don't think she finishes Fernandes. Next up, we got Kanan Song taking on Muslim Salikhov. Oh, man. This is a weird one, man. Why is this on the main card? Respectfully, why is this on the main card? I don't know. Salikhov is a beast, and Randy Brown slept him, but, he's typically been pretty durable. Dalby beat him. The Leech knocked him out as well. So maybe he's losing some of that durability with those losses, but, did get a win over Ponzinibbio, even though Ponzinibbio just has not been looking the same lately. And, it's just, yeah, Ponzinibbio just isn't who he used to be, unfortunately, even though he's not, like, super old. But, Kanan Song, on the other hand, got finished by Max Griffin. That's tough. Losing to him, one thing, getting finished. I'll give you the pass in the Gary fight. Jussier is pretty good, but, not great. And then, the Ricky Glenn fight, even though you won, wasn't very impressive. Song's got some power, and Salikhov is 40, and it does seem like his durability is starting to leave him. If that's enough for you to get behind and want to fade the 40-year-old, I get it. But for me, I just feel like the more skilled guy, this fight's going to probably play out on the feet. I don't think Song has the wrestling to take Muslim down. Muslim's takedown defense is still pretty solid at his age. So if they're going to fight on the feet, I think Salikhov is the better striker, man. I think he should be the favorite. I think it probably should be like minus 130. But, God, do I really want to bet like Kanan Song? I don't think I can, dude. This is a low-level fight. And even though Salikhov, I hate to say, he's not low-level. It's just he's 40 and he has a lot of wear and tear. And, his 40 is just a little older than some other people's 40. And I don't like what I've been seeing out of him lately. The Ponzinibbio fight, okay, even if Ponzinibbio wasn't Ponzinibbio anymore, still a decent enough performance. But, and honestly, Randy Brown's a beast. So knocking him out, you're getting knocked out by him, whatever. But I don't know. I think Salikhov wins, but I'm just not. It's a pass fight, dude. I'm good. He should be the favorite, but not by that much, and I'm not bad. I wouldn't be able to bet him by chalk, nor would I bet Song unless he was like plus 250 or something where I just was obligated. Moving on. Co-main event. We got Yao Shannon taking on Tabitha Ricci. This is an interesting fight, man. This is interesting. Tabitha Ricci is going to be at a size discrepancy here, and she is fighting Yan, obviously, at home. Haven't wanted to beat a dead horse with that on the Chinese fighters on this card too much, but, on these higher-level fights when it's going to matter a little bit more. In a fight that I do think goes to decision. I thought about betting the fight goes to decision on this because both girls super tough. Even though Yan did get finished by knockout and submission in her last fight, it's the running joke. She got submitted. She got put to sleep. Then they woke her up. Then they could have easily stopped the fight a million times. And then, still makes a decision. I had Zhang inside the distance, and that was a tough pill to swallow. But, and I think that cost me the winning night, too. Yeah, it did. That was tough. Anyways, Tabitha, super durable, super tough. She did get finished by Manofero, but she was so outsized there. Short notice, up a weight class is what it is. And Ferro's about to fight for a title. So, straight up, don't care about that. Her only real loss, a split to Lupita, who on her best day, Lupita's freaking good. She's just so hit or miss. The Angela Hill fight wasn't great. The Tisha Pennington Torres fight, I will say, I did bet Tisha in that, but you could argue she lost that fight, actually, to be fair. So, she tends to fight close. And that's why, in this fight, if I do think it goes to decision, and I do think Ricci is going to be tough to finish, even though Jan does have power. It doesn't typically translate to knockouts, but she does have power. She can hurt girls. But I do feel like this goes to decision, and I do think Ricci can make it close. Then wouldn't the value be on the underdog? It would. The problem is, man, she doesn't have great wrestling. And Jan's going to be the much better, slicker striker. And I think the footwork could be a problem. The speed could be a problem. Jan's good jab or straight punches just piece Ricci up coming in on the inside. Decent clinch elbows as well. Jan, if Ricci's trying to put her up against the cage, I think she gets some damage that way. And I just don't have faith in Ricci's wrestling, man. I'd need a better, if she got to plus 200, it'd probably be tempting. But man, I think Jan wins a decision here, man. I'm tempted to bet the fight goes to decision. It's 3-1. I really don't like betting those chalky overs too often. But, this matchup, and we got the new gloves. Unless there's a submission or Jan really catch her with the perfect punch. I think this fight goes 15, 9 times out of 10, honestly. So, maybe I will parlay that. Give me Jan by decision. But I don't hate anybody taking a dog shot, and I do like the overs. Next up, we got Piotr Jan taking on Deiveson Figueiredo. Interesting fight, man. When I first saw this matchup, I wasn't expecting the line to be as wide as it was. I really wasn't, just because Deiveson has been looking really good. Last loss was at Brandon Moreno. It was kind of weird, is what it is. Some people saying he got broke, but a little bit of weird finish. But, since coming up to bantamweight, much better. Looks much healthier. Even though he's not the biggest bantamweight, Rob Font and Cody made him look kind of small. Able to go in there and get these takedowns in all 3 of these fights. But none of those guys, well, I will say Cody's always, Cody's never really been fought a guy who really went out there and tried to take him down. But, Rob Font and Marlon never really had good takedown defense. Jan's typically hard to take down, Yeah, maybe Aljo could do it a little bit. Even though really it was more like he didn't get a ton of takedowns. He just made them worth it when he did. Piotr Jan get his own takedowns too, man. Good trips, good throws. He was taking Aljo, and even though Aljo was kind of just broke and gassed in that first fight, but still, he was taking him down. I think Figgy overall is a better wrestling. I just think Jan's got some nasty little judo trips and throws, and he's got some wrestling of his own too. He'll shoot a takedown or two. The thing, too, is, even though Figgy's only been finished twice, and one was that weird, both were Moreno, but 5-round fights, and this is a 5-round fight, but still, Jan's never been finished. Typically, if you're going to beat him, you got to really just, win the minute. He is kind of a slow starter, so you got to try to win these rounds, especially early, because Jan will start to pick up as the fight goes on. Figgy, he can kind of slow down, too, so, who's going to win those middle rounds? I think Figgy probably could land a couple takedowns, but can he really win 2-3 rounds doing that? Can he win 2 rounds at least doing that, and then win 1 of the 3 other rounds striking? It's kind of a tough ask, and, if you got him when he was, plus, damn near 300, I mean, I think that's great. You did your job. I missed that. He was, plus 290 or something at one point. Man, well done if you got that. I think anytime you're getting Figgy at that close to, 3-1 against really anybody, it's a pretty good line, man. But, I got to go Jan, but I kind of like the fight doesn't go to decision plus 125. If Figgy wins, you got to think he'd be the first to finish Jan, right? I mean, maybe you think he could win 3 rounds wrestling, but or like 2 wrestling and then 1 in the striking, but especially maybe Figgy wins the first round, because I think Figgy probably has a good chance to win the first round. Jan starts slow, Figgy starts hot. Figgy doesn't always be the best, highest volume, but, he tends to win, at a higher clip early on than Jan. So maybe he wins that first round and then, can win 2 grappling. Maybe, I don't know. I think the fight doesn't go at plus money is pretty solid. I haven't bet it, but I'm interested in it. Look, so far, I'll run through the picks real quick. I'm going to go Piotr Jan I'm going to take him by a TKO, man. I'm going to say Figgy slows down, maybe does some wrestling early, slows down. I'm going to say Jan gets the TKO in like the 4th round. I'm going to go Yao Shannon decision. I'm going to go Salikhov decision, Kong Wang decision, Ulberg by knockout, Zhang by knockout, Jenisuly by decision, Choi by decision, Feng decision, Carlos Hernandez decision. I'm going to go Jose Ochoa Loner Kavanagh by knockout. I'm going to go Kong Lee by decision and Nicholas Motta by knockout. Damn, did I not pick a submission on this fight, on this entire card? There will be one, but I don't know, off the top of my head, maybe. There's a couple grappler versus grappler fights, so somebody could definitely get caught. And on these new gloves, there tends to be more subs than knockouts. But I'm picking a couple knockouts on this card, so we'll see if they can break the new glove curse. But as for bets, I've only locked in Ochoa plus 295 or plus 290 and Nicholas Motta plus 175. I kind of am looking at Lee at plus money. Maybe this Fernandes line gets too crazy and I got to jump in on it. I kind of missed the boat on a crazy line on Figgy. If Ulberg gets too bet up, maybe. I don't know, man. It's not a whole... You got to pick your spots on this card, man. It's a lot of dangerous newcomers. But that's where I'm at so far, man. We'll talk later on in the week. I'll give all my bets tomorrow night, Wager Wars. And then Friday morning, I'll drop my quick picks and final thoughts, like final bets and all that good stuff. So come through tomorrow night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, Thursday night, for Wager Wars. Come tune into that. Like the video, click subscribe, turn your post notifications on. Let me know in the comments what bets you guys have. I need to look into the tape even more on this one. This is a tough card, man. A lot of new guys on this one, and girls. But we'll get into it more later on in the week. I'll catch y'all later. Peace.